Hello everyone, and welcome to the October Open edX Meetup. Today we will have three talks. First talk is going to be from Juan Camilo Montoya, co-founder of eduNEXT. He will be presenting a customer sandbox for the Open edX platform. Then we will have Adrian Devezin, founder of Empowr e-learning platform, which is a platform based on Open edX. And also we'll have Gina Makowski from Takereal. She will give a brief presentation on the Open edX roadmap. Before we begin, please remember there will these presentations. There will be a 15-minute presentation from the speaker. Then we will have some Q&A session, right? For this Q&A, for each presenter, please remember to write your questions on the room chat so that we can then read them to the speaker. And also, please remember that this session will be recorded, so please turn off your cameras if you don't want to appear in the recording. And remember that after each round of presentations, there will be an unstructured area. You can meet the speakers after the talks. If you want to continue or add additional questions, we will mention the carpet areas where each speaker will be at the end of this session. So now let me introduce Juan Camilo Montoya. He's a co-founder of eduNEXT, an Open edX partner, and he will be presenting the customer sandbox for the Open edX platform, right? Juan, do you wanna come to the right? Welcome, and go ahead with your presentation, please.
Thank you very much. Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and thanks to the organizers of this meetup. So as Esteban mentioned, my name is Juan Montoya. I work at eduNEXT, and I'm here today to present to the community the Open edX Sandbox. This is a project that was proposed by eduNEXT back in January this year as part of the engagement in the marketing working group. The idea was to provide anyone interested in the Open edX platform with a production environment that is as easily accessible as possible and also risk-free. So basically, a place to jump right into the experience of the Open edX platform, even before digging into the source code or performing any installation whatsoever. So why did we need that? Why did we think we needed that? Up until now, how could you get your hands on? How could you get hands-on with the platform? You could either try to deploy your own environment using Tutor. That requires some technical skill, requires time, effort, and you'll probably need to face many technical and configuration hurdles before reaching a point where you actually can experiment with the platform. That's one option. You could also sign up for one of us providers that offer a free trial of some sorts, but this would likely get you a modified, extended, opinionated version of the platform instead of the vanilla or native thing. Or you could go to edX.org or some other large established destination site that uses the platform, but again, you may get the wrong idea about what the actual Open edX platform is in itself. And in that case, you will only have access to the learner experience, most likely. So none of those options were ideal. And I believe this situation was preventing, to some extent at least, a wider adoption of the platform. So introducing the Open edX Sandbox. It was launched earlier this month, a couple of weeks ago. It's accessible from a link that is posted in a blog post and in the Open edX website menu, and also directly from this URL that you can see on the screen, sandbox.openedx.org. What exactly is it? So it's naturally the deployment of the core applications and features for the learner, so the LMS, forums, and for the course author. So there's the studio, the instructor dashboard, all the basic tools. It is important to mention that it's a Takereal destination, as it's reflected in the domain. and it's branded and configured as such with all the compliance requirements that come with that. For example, in terms of data protection, geographic availability, and things like that. The original idea is that these sites resembles real online learning destinations to some extent, but it's also not too heavily configured. So it's as close as reasonably possible to the vanilla experience that you will get out of a fresh installation and configuration of OpenEdX, in order not to mislead potential adopters. We did include though some theming, of course, to make it useful, and an additional layer of information in the form of some guided tours that you're seeing here in the screen that may help some visitors that will need help navigating around the platform. Now, what can you do with it? So there are multiple ways of experiencing OpenEdX through the sandbox. The first one is, of course, as a learner, especially for newcomers and potential adopters of the OpenEdX technology. They should find here a place to quickly see how the learner experience is like. So navigate the homepage, the course catalog, experience the registration and login process, see the learner dashboard, the profile page, so on. And most importantly, enroll and take one of the available courses. To that extent, we have prepared 2 sample courses for this purpose. They're not real courses, they are just demonstration courses. The first one is called OpenEdX 101, and it's a simple exploration of the main course components. It's built to not be too scary and to give a general sense of how a course navigation is, how most of the common components look and behave, and to allow to easily engage with the course, get some grades, and even get an honor certificate really fast. In here, you can see how the outline looks for that particular course. So you will recognize that these are the most basic components. Then there is the second course, OpenEdX 102, which provides a more in-depth exploration of the different course components and features. So, for example, it will showcase a lot of the more complex and more hard to reach things, such as, I don't know, mathematical notation with MathJax, video transcript with multiple languages and downloads, advanced configurations for the kappa problems. So anything from hints and feedback, shuffled options, answer pools, partial grades, scripts within the problem, you name it. Examples of all the advanced problem types as well, different examples of each of the advanced problems types, advanced uses of the open response assessment component, so peer assessment, team submissions, things like that. A variety of XBlocks and advanced course settings, such as like subsection prerequisites, timed exams, teams, cohorted content, student notes, those kind of things that I'm sure most of you are aware of. So a second way to experience the sandbox is as a course creator. In order to achieve this without any blockers in the way, or reducing as much as possible all the blockers that were in the way, we changed the platform a little bit and added a custom plugin for this project that grants course creator permissions to anyone that registers to the platform. So right after registration, you can go to Studio and start creating courses. But this plugin also restricts the course creation to one particular organization. So you can only create courses in the public organization. And it changes the platform normal behavior so that these courses are never shown in the course catalog or the homepage. So they can only be seen by the creator themselves or the people they invite into the course. This will allow anyone that registers to have their own little experimentation space where you can try new things and learn by doing. For example, play around with the XBlocks that we have included in this build. And finally, a third way to experience the sandbox. We hope that over time, this will also become a community asset, like a place to have a shared experiences and conversations, ideally a place to play together and share our toys. So some examples in this category would be, for example, using the sandbox to support the conversations about functionality and configurations and education practices that happen in this course or in the Slack channel. or to have a place to record the how-to videos or the tutorials that has a standardized branding and a standard set of settings, or to support the efforts of the translations working group, for example, because it provides you with a environment where to see these things in context. Finally, to have a shared place where you can collaborate to build some awesome course templates that could be shared across the community. So hopefully this list will be short when compared to the ideas and uses you guys, the community, can come up with. And the early stats give us some positive signs in terms of the engagement by the community. So the Sandbox has only been up and running for a couple of weeks. It was launched through a blog post by Tikril, and it has already received more than 230 registered users. And up until this morning, there was 84 courses already created. So I truly hope that this trend continues, and those of you who have not yet registered, take some time to do it in the next few days, and we can start collaborating in this space. Well, in terms of features and limitations, we're currently running in the Maple release. That includes the LMS, the forums, features like search, notes, of course, the studio, the preview functionality. And also we have a selection of exploits. We basically did a deep dive and reviewed as many exploits as we could, and included most of those as long as they were compatible and they worked for our needs. The exploit landscape's a bit complex, but to the extent we could, we included a lot of exploits there for people to experiment with. It currently does not include the micro frontends, the mobile applications, course discovery, publisher, and some other extensions of the ecosystem. But this is a continuous effort, so it will certainly be evolving towards the latest releases and be adding more features. To that point, a possible future roadmap we have been considering for the learner experience could include things like adding MFE support, which is something we hope to be able to include with the Olive release. Configuration of some more advanced features like third-party authentication, for example, with Google or other sources simultaneously. The deployment of the mobile apps I mentioned for the Sandbox. And for the author experience, we could look at the inclusion of more XBlocks. Working with the XBlocks creators, we could overcome some of the challenges we've had with some of them and extend the list of XBlocks available, or even plugins or some other extensions. The addition of guided tours to the Studio application. Currently, the guided tours are mostly in the LMS side, but they could be added to Studio too. And perhaps think about ways of boosting the experience of new course creators with additional tools like templates or additional assistance to explore the platform. So there's a number of ways we'd love other members of the community to contribute to this effort. For example, you can, of course, try it, use it, and provide your feedback. Also, people could want to volunteer to help with improving the sample courses that we have. There's a lot of room for improvement and enrichment there, or with the content of the walkthroughs as well, or just with help with the implementation of some of the features that are proposed in the roadmap, or some more features that you can also suggest. So this is it. Thank you for your attention. I hope we have some time for questions and ideas about this initiative, and this is very useful for our community.
Well, thank you very much, Juan, for your update. Let me read some of the questions we have from the audience. So we have one question: Are there rules about what kinds of courses can be created in the Sandbox?
Right. There is a terms of service, which I don't know by heart, but there may be some rules about that in the terms of service that is part of the platform. To my knowledge, they're not really too many rules for that, because of the fact that the courses that anyone can create are not publicly visible. They're just for your own use, basically. The demonstration courses or the demo courses that I mentioned that are there for everyone to see are not managed by anybody. They are centrally managed. So those are compliant with whatever TCRIL needs to be compliant. I don't know if that covers your question, but probably in the terms of service, um, there will be some details about like normal expected
Okay.
operations.
Yes, that I believe this answers the questions.
Good.
One other question. So will it be? Well, I think you mentioned something of this, but let me read the question. Will it be upgraded to nutmeg or and then to olive in December? How should people get in touch if they want to help? Well, I think you've shared also some.
Yeah, I think the upgrade will be both in one. Like it will likely be upgraded directly to olive, so we'll skip nutmeg most likely. But that's still to be decided. And in case people want to help, I was thinking about that. I'll probably add some link to reach out or email to contact for people to reach out if they want to make any suggestions or something. I will add that in the bottom in the footer.
That's great.
You can
Okay.
of course contact me directly through the Slack channel or through Discord as well.
Okay, great. Um, so are the sample courses new for this sandbox and available just through the sandbox login? Just asking for people who already have access but could benefit from them.
I'm not sure if that means that's Mari's question. I don't know if that means accessing like the edit mode of those courses, like be able to replicate the configurations and use those courses, import that content either in your own course or somewhere else. So currently that is not available, but I don't see a reason why it couldn't be. We could make that template available for people to download. It is currently not. These courses were the result of basically years of like curating specific examples and experiences and configurations that we have had in eduNEXT. So we rearranged it and organized it for this purpose. But yeah, we could make that available for authors to play with as well.
Okay, great. So thank you. One other question. What is the difference between this public sandbox and the trials or sandboxes that the OpenEdX marketplace providers provide?
Sure. That's a key question and very interesting. The main difference is that we tried as much as possible not to add significant modifications into this platform um, that are opinionated, that are the way a particular provider understands how the platform should work and behave. It tries to be as standardized as possible, um, so that after exploring the provider, you decide, sorry, the sandbox, you decide that you want that experience you want the platform for your organization. You could go and pick any provider, and you could go and do it yourself. Also, download this, make the installation with your own technical resources, and you should get something that it's relatively similar, or as to extent possible similar to what you saw in the sandbox. That's basically the idea.
Great. That's great. Thank you. Another question. So with 80 already, the list might be several hundreds before long, right? So do courses have a preset end date? 6 weeks, 3 months?
Yeah, sure. That's still undecided as well, because initially we thought that the sandbox was going to be wiped clean every few days, even as frequent as every week. But then, depending on the way people use it, it may be inconvenient to just wipe clean whatever you did, right? So probably we'll need a longer span. It is perhaps healthy to wipe it clean every now and then, still, just to reduce the number of courses and make sure that um, everything runs smoothly and there's no, I don't know, weird old things in there. But it's undecided what the frequency of that would be. Perhaps something in the range of a few months would be okay, but that's still not fully decided.
Okay, great. Well, time's up for this presentation. Thank you very much, Juan, for your presentation and everyone for the questions. If you have other questions that we've run out of time in the Q&A session, please reach out to Juan Camilo after the sessions in the unstructured area.
Sure.
Okay, so now we continue with the presentation from Adrian Devezin. Adrian Devezin is co-founder of Empowr, This is a US-based nonprofit that allows high school students in Georgia to learn how to code in order to prepare them for thriving careers in computer science post-graduation. It is the organization's mission to increase diversity within the field of computer science in an effort to reduce socio-economic gaps within the USA. Adrian, please go ahead and please walk into the carpet and go ahead with your presentation, please. Welcome. Not sure if your mic is working. So, there you go. Now, yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, I'm Adrian Devezin. I'm the executive director of Empowr. And Empowr is, like you said, it's a nonprofit based here in the US. And what we do is we teach software development to high school students of color. And once they graduate, we work with our hiring partners to ensure that they have careers waiting on them. So Open edX has really allowed us to scale up in some really cool ways that we're here to talk about. So there we go. Yeah, so it's kind of Empowr was kind of based on my own journey. Just to give you a little background, I did not do well in traditional education. I was kind of just was barely passing by. I didn't really have any teachers that really believed in me, and I wanted to, but I eventually got into tech. After experiencing homelessness, I started to teach myself how to program, and I got my first job. And I think at the beginning of that year, I was making minimum wage at McDonald's part time. I ended it, making 85,000 as a software developer, and it blew my mind what could happen. And as many of y'all know, the salaries only rise. And so I wanted to bring this change back to all the kids who were like me. And so I started.
Okay, sorry, Adrian, I interrupt. Could you please share your screen again? That I think is not being shared now.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully.
That's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So what makes Empowr kind of unique from any coding bootcamp is that we really speak to our communities. So it's a multi-year program for these students of color. They join in ninth grade, they graduate, and when they graduate high school, they graduate our program. The first year, it's all about the students learning how to code and taking a leadership course to help them figure out who they are and to get paired with mentors. The second year, to teach them the power of software development, what we do is we build an app together that they then release, and then they own their own business. So we increase the number of minority and women-owned businesses. The third year, because many of these students live in poverty, we secure paid internships and gigs with our students. So now they're bringing home money to their families to help increase their household income. And the fourth year is all about building a professional network before that they go to their job placement. We have a 100% job placement rate with our first cohort, and we have more cohorts coming in. So we accepted in 2020 our first cohort of 3 students, and we began virtual classes after school just using Google Classroom. Google Classroom's okay, but it was a pain. In 2021, we accepted our second cohort of 15 students, and the Hopper Dean Foundation from Jeffrey Dean of Google donated $30,000 to Empowr. This year, as we began accepting more students, we realized we needed a platform and we needed to scale up. And so that's where Open edX entered the picture. Our first cohort graduated. They all work at Dell. We accepted 20 new students into the program, and we raised over $250,000 so far, and we still have money coming in. But one of the things that we always thought about was how do we scale this up? It's so personal, and it's impossible for me to go ahead and grade 70 students coding assignments. And so that's where Open edX entered the picture. I'd used edX.org, so I was like, how did they do this? And then I come to find out it's open source. So I thought that was awesome. So we have this LMS that we upload our assignments to, which was great for a lot of the quizzes, but it didn't really help if the kids are learning how to program. I would still be grading 70 kids programming assignments. So I remembered LeetCode allowed me to learn how to code, and at the same time, I could complete different assignments and it would be auto-graded. So I decided, why doesn't this exist in Open edX's XBlock frameworks? I searched and a lot of people were asking for it, but the only couple places that had it all charged money. And as a nonprofit, We just don't have as much to give out. So I decided to create it. So we created a coding plugin that allows students to code directly in the browser using languages that normally require MacBooks and have it compile on an external server and then auto grade that assignment. And after creating it, I realized how much disparity a lot of organizations face. And so we decided to open source it. So we're in the process of open sourcing the server, the assignment creator, and the plugin itself. And yeah, I would like to demo that for you all right now. So what we have is we have our XBlock. Our XBlock's code is, as many of you guys know, it's built on the XBlox platform and allows students to be able to write the code directly in a code mirror instance. And that instance then formats the code for us that can then hit the server. So you can provide instructions in Markdown language that will then be translated to HTML. And then your students could then execute that code. And so this instruction is for them to print hello world. I'm gonna spell it wrong. And if I click run code, you'll see that it actually runs that code and outputs it. If I click submit code to submit this as an assignment, you'll see it'll print out a diff, just like GitHub, that says, hey, you forgot this D at the end. World has an error. And then I can correct it, and I click submit code, and it'll turn green. How this code is compiled is using a Docker container, because as we all probably know, arbitrary code being executed is really scary. So we have a Docker container that runs, that has nothing else in it, and it's pretty easy for any of you to add any languages you want. Right now it supports Swift, Rust, TypeScript, JavaScript, and I think a couple other languages. And to add a new language is as simple as about 15 lines of code. We made it that simple on purpose so that the community could really help out with this. Our server allows us to easily create assignments that we're also open sourcing as well. So we have a little dashboard that you can add authentication to. And you can easily create a new assignment. And as you can see, you can write the instructions in Markdown. You can give the users a total number of attempts they can use to complete the assignment. Success message and failure message that also accept Markdown. And the expected output of the assignment. Assignments can support multiple languages. So this one supports Swift, but it can support as many as you like and allow the user to select which language they want to complete the assignment in. You can also provide feedback to the students. So if on their second attempt, their output matched this regex, which is this empty space, then it would give them the feedback. Be sure to use the print function. So that way you can give automated feedback to your students based on common errors that they may encounter. And it really becomes that simple to kind of have this plugin available for everybody. So we're in the process of open sourcing it. As a software developer, I don't like how my code is refactored right now. So I did a nice little rewrite. And how it works with the XBlox is the XBlox just does a call to your assignment server, says, hey, what's the assignment? It'll get back all the necessary information. Then when the user clicks run or submit, it'll do another call to the Docker container, which will actually execute the code. It has nothing else on it, and it'll just return the result. And then do another call to the grader, which will actually grade the assignment based on the expected output. So this is what we wanted to present to the community. We would really love all your help to add more languages to it, which is, like I said, it's really simple, just a little tedious. And to really level it up, we would love to be able to add unit tested capabilities where you could specify unit tests are running into code and way more features. And since it's open source, it's available for everyone, and make sure is that any organization that can spin up an open edX instance can also add coding to their suite of tools. And yeah, so I'd love any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Adrian, for your presentation and for all the work you've been doing. It's really, really awesome, fantastic. So let me ask you some of the questions, people from the audience. One question is Python available as a language that can be included?
Yes, so Python is available. It officially supports JVM-based languages, Swift, Kotlin, Node and TypeScript, Python, and Rust.
That's great. Another question. Well, everyone is really happy. The community is very happy with this contribution, right? So, is this already open sourced, or when are you planning to open source the project?
So the Xbox itself has been open sourced already, but the Docker container, the Docker server, and the assignment server have yet to be open source. I am doing some final, I'm just doing some final refactoring on them. And today I was testing everything looked good. This was actually a live environment, and so yeah, they should be open source within the next month. And
okay, that's great.
I can post a link to the Xbox. You're right. I should have done that.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Yes. So another question. So how did you create it with? How did you create it? Native or with tutor?
Yeah. So this is native. This is a native plugin.
Okay.
It's under our Empowr org, then code editor Xblocks. Right now, under advanced setting, you'd have to put Swift plugin because when I originally developed this, it was just for Swift because we teach iOS programming. But then I realized why not make it for any language, and so.
Okay, great. So another question, this one more in terms of your project, right? So the nonprofit, do you have partnerships with corporations as well as US-based high schools?
Yeah, so we actually have quite a bit of partners that work with us. We just secured our first high school this year, which is South Atlanta High School, which is one of the lowest income high schools in Atlanta. It's a really rough school, but we accepted our first cohort of students there. We teach it in program. I actually was 5 minutes late here because I was rushing back from teaching the students, and they're doing amazing. For corporations, we have these corporations here, TrueVentures.org. They funded Peloton and Fitbit. SecureWorks, they're a subsidiary of Dell. BlackRock and GitHub, you guys probably all know. Some of you may know PagerDuty, and the Hopper Dean Foundation. So they're the ones who fund this or hire our graduates.
Okay, that's great. One other question. Is it one Docker container that runs many scripts, or is it a new container for each script? So if it's one container, how do you handle a rogue script causing a problem and potentially taking down that container?
Yeah, so the Docker container purely executes the arbitrary code. It does nothing else. It doesn't have the assignments. It doesn't have access to anything else. Security-wise, I am not the security expert. We're actually working with HackerOne to try and give us as much of tips, but that's one thing we hope the community can bring on board with this too, is making this as secure as possible, because not every organization will be able to afford, hiring security experts to come in and make sure the infrastructure is properly set up. But yeah.
That's great. Yes. Thank you. One more question. So what else would it be nice to have in your Open edX platform in order to make your program even more effective?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think right now one of our major issues is not all the LTI integrations really, like Big Blue Button, I would say, is our biggest one. We love their platform. They don't work as seamlessly with Open edX as we constantly come into little bugs. So, but I think that's more on Big Blue Button. Other than that, I think things work really well. I think we've been able to do everything we can, and what we couldn't do with the programming, we just made happen due to all having technical backgrounds. It's honestly, Open edX is, Amazon told me to choose Moodle. I was like, Open edX wins by a long shot. So.
Great. It's great to hear that. That's great to hear. I think we all agree on that. Yes. So what's the name of the X block again, please? Or if you can then share it here in the chat. Okay. Yeah.
I'll paste the link.
Yeah, it's great. One other question. Are the only checks on the printed out outputs, or is there a way for it to check the resulting data structures or run custom code against them to perform tests? Do you rescaling for adults as well, or only for high school grads?
Yeah, so we don't have anything like unit testing yet. That's something I want to add. Currently, if you were to use our XBlock code right now, everything's been changed. So even though it says the RC2 was released 19 days ago, it's been completely rewritten since then. So right now we're still focusing on integrating our Kotlin server, which is the assignment server, and our Docker container into our new structure. So after that, we plan to add unit tests, and we hope the community will kind of come together to help make that happen for us. Yeah, and so we only work with high schoolers. What the problem with communities of color is that, you know, every organization is like, I can't find diverse engineers. That's because almost 50% of Black students don't have access to the classes to get to college. So that's why we focus on high schoolers and accepting them into 9th grade, because that's where the problem is with communities of color. It's in high school. And so if we attack it there, we can actually make a difference.
Okay, that's great. So one other question. So where could we find the information when you complete to open source the whole
the whole platform? Yeah, I would say follow us on social
Comments.
media. That's where I do our announcements, or subscribe to our website. I will do a mailing announcement, and LinkedIn, that's what I'm active on. I don't have any other personal social media. So you'll see everything on LinkedIn first.
Okay.
And I can post my links in the chat for you.
Okay, that's great. Okay, no, I think we're running out of time. So thank you, Adrian, for being here, for your presentation, for your project, and I hope you get all the assistance from the community so that your project grows even bigger than what it is today.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So now we're going to start the third talk of the meetup. So we're going to have Gina Makowski from Jekyll. She will conduct a brief presentation on the Open edX Meetup and its iterations since it was created in the Open edX Conference 2022. Welcome, Gina, and please go ahead with your presentation.
Thanks, Esteban. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. So my name is Jenna Makowski, and I am the product manager for Open edX at the Center for Reimagining Learning. And the brief presentation that I wanted to give today is that I wanted to spend a few minutes giving an update on where we are with the Open edX roadmap, and as well where we are with some of the efforts to begin to document the product management side of the Open edX project.
Sorry, Gina, I think we're not seeing your presentation. Not sure if you have already shared it.
Okay.
Try it again.
Sure.
There you go.
Awesome.
Great.
Yes,
Thank
so I intentionally do not have a presentation. I didn't want to do this in PowerPoint. I wanted to just spend the time directly in the roadmap as it currently exists. We realized that sort of in talking with Eden and speaking with many of you across the community, we spent quite a bit of time at the conference back in April in Lisbon talking about the Open edX roadmap and what its intent is and what its current state is. But I began to realize in speaking with many of you that we don't have really a regular touch point to stay updated on the roadmap. And the roadmap has been a very iterative document and an iterative artifact since April. It's something that I've been sort of working on, trying to improve and figure out how to make better each sprint. But realized there was really no channel to communicate some of those updates, and there was maybe some confusion or just a sense of, where do I go to learn more about what's happening with the roadmap? And so Eden and I were talking, and we thought this Open edX meetup would be a good place to maybe start doing a more an update on the roadmap on a more regular cadence. And so we can have a continual touch point on what's been happening with the roadmap, as well as open up broader channels for feedback. Because I'd like to continue to hear from all of you what you'd like to see this artifact become over time, because this is a strategic document for all of us.
Great. Sorry, could you please maximize your screen so that we see it a little bit bigger? Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So what I thought I'd do today is talk a little bit about the current state of the roadmap and some dynamic changes that I've made since the last presentation, which again was all the way back in April at the conference. Many of these changes have been around the organization of the roadmap, I've tried to simplify it a bit in terms of the statuses, and I'll talk a little bit about why I've made some of these decisions. And then the other main thing I wanted to talk through was some of the new tabular infrastructure here at the top, as these will start to give a better indication of the areas where TCRL and the community as a whole are investing, and also be areas where channels where you can do a deeper dive into these areas of the platform to learn more about work that's underway, as well as where you may be able to get involved as well. So to step back for a bit, so again, the roadmap is in GitHub. This is a GitHub project. I believe that Eden now has a link to this available on the website as well, the Open edX website, so you should be able to access it directly. So the roadmap is, I think the first thing I said at the conference about the roadmap, which is still true, is that it is, at this point, it's still less of a roadmap and more of a repository or a directory of all the current work in progress. So you'll remember that the first milestone for the roadmap was to simply get a view of all of the current work in progress across the community from as many contributors as possible. So we wanted to have a complete view of what was coming in from 2U, what 2U edX is working on, what OpenCraft, eduNEXT, edLead, what TCRL is working on. And so at the moment, it is very current, right? The idea is that we wanted to capture a view of all of the current projects that are ongoing. And so that's sort of the space that we're still in. I think eventually we would like to have an extended view and begin to build a more detailed sort of backlog or a more detailed list of sort of like wish list items that we can prioritize and be available for folks to begin to contribute to. But first, the goal is to get everything current and a view of that. And so that's what you're looking at today. I've been just building this as I get data and as I get information. I've established regular communication channels with product managers at 2U, as well as through the product working group. I think we've got now a clear sense of all of the product thought leaders across the community and have channels now into the roadmap. The roadmap is pretty simple in terms of how it's organized. I wanted to capture in progress work and then work as it's done, defined as done by that organization. And the other thing to note is that everything here on the roadmap is a very high level view. It's very coarse grained. It's at the initiative or the epic level. And the goal is just to give an overview of what the project is. And so the idea is that ideally we can start to look at what is currently done, and this can hopefully give BTR a sense of what projects are available potentially to be released in Olive. One of the other major updates is that I've been working with some of the other product managers to come up with a template for how to organize the tickets on here. Like, what information do we want to capture in the tickets at the product level? What is important to understand about each initiative in terms of its scope and impact and the features that are included, as well as what's important for the community to know in terms of the feature relative to the release. And so the idea is that we want to be able to capture full scope of what the enhancements include. So this is the ticket for the new discussions micro front end, which is the big discussions project that edX is contributing. There's a pretty detailed list here of all of the enhancements that are included. There's links to demos and product blogs that the product managers are beginning to write for all of these. So we can start to get more detail demos. We'll be able to use this demo information for release notes and those sorts of things. And slowly, this is still very much a work in progress, but we're trying to get a better grasp on the status of projects, where they fall when the new release cuts. So getting production statuses, we want to start getting information about how to enable these things all brought together in one place. So this is still, as you can see, very much a work in progress. The other thing I wanted to highlight is, so there are some areas where there is heavier and heavier investment in different areas of the platform by the community and by TCRL. And so we wanted to also create a channel in the roadmap for you to dive in and get a deeper view of the areas where there is heavy investment. And so that's what this tabular infrastructure up here is meant to represent. Each of these tabs is an area where there is deeper investment going on in a particular area of the platform. The credentials project is an example. So again, all of the tickets here are intended to represent a high level view of what's going on in that area. I'm also starting to link out to the more specific Kanban boards for these projects where they exist. And so there's a more specific Kanban board for credentials that details the verified credentials sharing work that is linked here. And this is the place where you'd go if you wanted to do like a really deep dive into the credentials work at a more granular sprint by sprint level. So here you can see that there's, a very clear backlog of things. There's a number of bugs that are being worked on, DEPR projects being worked on, just some discovery work. The intent is very intentional to separate these deep dive boards from the roadmap. Again, the roadmap's meant to be high level, but I wanted to provide people a channel then to do these deep dives if the credentials is an area that you're interested in, or you want to know more about where we are specifically for that, you can come to the more specific Kanban board. And so the goal is to flesh out each of these tabular areas as I kind of get the information collated, and as we make these investment area decisions. The discussion forums is another one. This is a deep dive into all of the discussion forums updates that edX has been driving. All of the work on the micro front end has been moving full steam ahead, thanks to the work that Adolfo has been doing. Adolfo has also again, this is sort of the epic or initiative level view of the MFE roadmap, but here there's a link to Adolfo's more specific sprint by sprint board for MFE work. So you can come here if MFEs is the area that you're interested in. All of Kyle and Regis's work with the tutor team is here as well. There's a more specific tutor board that you can dive into. And this is sort of the most current tab in progress. There's a number of initiatives going on around studio and teaching and learning updates. This is where we are tracking all of the work around the new modular learning project that TCRL and OpenCraft are working on. We're working on some product documentation and user stories for that. All of those tickets are tracked here. All of the block store-based content library work is tracked here. Some of the learning core architecture work is starting to be tracked here as well. And this is sort of the current area that we're going to have more specific boards for these available in the next, hopefully 2 to 4 weeks, the next 1 to 2 sprints. The docs project is evolving as well. This one you can still see is pretty empty, but our intent here is to create for anybody who wants to get really involved in the documentation project that Fanil is leading at TCRL, we intend to have, very direct, would you like to write this document or help with this area on this board as well? Hopefully in the next 1 to 2 sprints, this one will be built out. Same for the LTI work. This is another area that we are going to be investing in, but we'll be building this out soon as well. And data is to come soon as well. So that's kind of where the board is. The one other thing I wanted to call attention to is the parallel. So the board is meant to kind of capture a high-level view of the work itself. When it comes to product documentation, we have also built this wiki space that is specific to the goal here is to house all of the Open edX product management or early stage product discovery documentation in one space. And so this has also been kind of a collaborative project between a number of product managers in the product working group, also working with some of the product teams at 2U and edX. The idea here is that we wanted to have a project space for all of the major in-progress projects that are being worked on by product managers, product owners, product leads. And so this is kind of an iterative space as well. There's links to all of the discovery work around the modular learning project. There's links here to some of the discovery work around like the documentation, some of the use cases for the data work. The idea here again is that we wanted to capture all of the sort of the early stage documents that come with product work, user stories, approach specs, market feedback, market interviews, those sorts of things. And as much as possible, I am trying to cross-reference these documents with their tickets on the roadmap so that there's a sort of a unified view for all of the document work that's going on the product side. The other exciting thing I wanted to share, this is like the newest addition to the product wiki space, is this blog section. I don't like the word blog because we actually have our own product, Open edX blog on the actual website, but I don't think you can actually change this in nomenclature, infrastructure, and wiki. But the idea here is for this to become sort of the new version 2.0 of the old edX partner portal, where once product work is done and released to the community, then there would be released to partners or clients. There are release notes associated with that new release. And so the product managers at 2U have been actively updating all of their release notes along with demos. So all of this work can feed the release notes and the community work for each named release as well. There are video demos here, which are really nice. So you can see the new discussions work, for example. And there's also lots of screenshots and walkthroughs and demos from the product managers on the work that they've done with these new feature updates. So I think I'll
thank you very thank you very much, Gina, for your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's open everyone for questions if you have. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Yes. So one question I have here. How can the community propose new areas of investment to focus on, which are currently not listed on the roadmap?
Yep, that's a great question. So there's sort of two sides to this. I do want to use this roadmap to start capturing all of the sort of ideas where there's a kind of a community wish list of ideas. What do we want to see as a community come next with investment? There is, if you scroll all the way to the right side of the roadmap, there's a community wish list, and this is all captured from, I think, a project that was done back in like 2020, with a number of the community members to kind of create not really even a backlog, but like a pre-backlog, a wish list of things that you wanted to see. And so I pulled all those over here, and if they have not moved at all in the last 2 years, they're still in this community wish list area. They are tagged by platform area. So in cases where there is a wish list, so there's nothing for discussions here, but the idea is to connect them to the specific platform area. I know there's quite a few here in Studio, wish list items for Studio. So they've been tagged by the platform area. So I think one of the next steps that I'd like to see the product working group tackle is beginning to prioritize these with input from the community. Which of these are most important to put into an actual backlog, and see if we can then get, find funding for, find resourcing for. And I think this would be a starting point for to begin to then answer that question, right? If there's areas where the community is interested in maybe taking on projects or resourcing, we can use this pool as a starting point to prioritize that work. The other part of that question is around, I think, new ideas that come up. How do we get them on the roadmap? So all of the tickets for the roadmap are in the platform repo. And there is from roadmap repo. There's the opportunity for anybody to add new issues to this repo. And I actually have a template for people to submit new, there's currently a template to submit current work in progress. I'm going to be creating a template to submit new ideas here as well. And this can be an active space anytime there's a new idea for something, or if you've done some discovery work on something and are interested in getting it more widely viewed. This is meant to be an open space for like open contributions to the roadmap, so we can continue to make that kind of like wish list a dynamic space for new ideas to be added. And then again, with the idea that the product working group will begin to step in and do some regular review and create a prioritization framework for moving some of those into an actual backlog.
Well, that's great. Thank you for your answer. Thank you for your presentation. We are running out of time this first session. Now, well, I want to thank you everyone for coming here and for the speakers for your presentations. Now we can continue with the extended Q&A. In each carpet, we're going to have carpet E, Adrian from Empowr, carpet D, Juan from eduNEXT, and carpet C, Gina with the product roadmap. So thank you, everyone, and well, hope to see you in the next meetup coming soon. Bye, everyone.